It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Next up, we have Ryan. He has a question. He says, unfortunately, I was recently laid off. We're sorry to hear that. But thanks to you guys, I have a huge emergency fund.
Great.
And I'm trying my hand at independent consulting. So he's looking at this career move. What are your top financial mutant tips for people who are independent? And then also, I mean, this is a big career transition. So I know that you guys have a lot of good advice on that too.
Brian, I want to start by saying, because I want you to talk about some of the top tips for independent folks to think about. I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement. We work with a lot of clients who've been very successful, right? A lot of families, a lot of individuals. And it's not uncommon for the genesis of someone's stories to have started just like this. I got laid off. There was a reduction in force. There was something that happened that I did not want, that I did not plan on, that happened in my life. But what it forced me to do was go out on my own and start this independent thing. And that was the catalyst that brought about all the success. So good for you for keeping you and your family protected, having an emergency fund, and now saying, you know what? All right, I'm going to march into this next chapter. It could turn out very, very well for you. So stay motivated with that. I just want you to hear that. There are a lot of folks who've had that same story and their ending turned out awesome. So with that, Brian, as a CPA, accountant, tax aficionado, as what I would call you as a business owner specialist, I think that's probably one of the biggest specialties that you have. What are some of the top tips that someone who's going out on their own, being independent, should be thinking of from like a bookkeeping and accounting standpoint, but then also from a saving standpoint and a risk management standpoint?
Yeah, this is going to be a combination of listicle as well as just motivation as well. And the fact that I think that the three key things I wrote down, and Ryan is doing the first one, which is the most important one, is you got to have cash reserves. You know, I've shared in my own journey, I was fortunate that I had $45,000 to $50,000 saved up, which was enough to get me and my wife through that first 3 years of starting my company. So you got to have cash. A lot of people think they're small business owners, but then they have failure because we know that percentage is so high. But a lot of it's not the talent, it's not the passion. It's they straight up ran out of cash to kind of bridge that 3-year period it takes to really nurture a business from the seedling to the sapling to actually a viable thing that can generate fruit for your family. So have cash is a very important thing. Good for you, Ryan, that you actually saved that up. The next thing is I go ahead and do the 3-plan strategy. So I want you right now to go ahead and start working on a 3-part business plan. When I say 3-part, I mean you're going to have 3 different versions of this exact same business plan. I want you to kind of build that 60-month outlook. So over that 5 years, you can have the 3 versions, which is what you think will happen. You know, graph that out and put that on the spreadsheet. But then I also want you to put, oh my gosh, we're going to be broke. Put the worst case scenario and be honest with yourself. I mean, because getting new clients, getting new business, growing a business is hard work. So put that, oh my goodness, we're going to be broke plan together. And then you can do one that's great for motivation because it's really fun. Like I said, we think linear, we don't think exponential. I still look back on my original business plan when I was going out on my own and I laugh at it now because I want you to create that business plan of, oh my gosh, we're going to be rich because that one will be so fun when you look back on it in the future, especially when you have success. And then the third thing I put was, I want you to keep swimming. And to steal from my friend Dory and the fact that I think a lot of people will get distracted or the journey of this 3 years to go from seed to functional fruit-bearing business is not easy. There's a reason entrepreneurs are kind of unique and they're cut from a different cloth. But I just want you to keep swimming, keep working through it, stay consistent, stay disciplined, and you'll be surprised when you come out on the other side. But I also want to remind you, because this is what Bo was alluding to, because I was guilty of this. Don't get busy doing nothing. I want you to know part of success is doing the stuff nobody else wants to do. Like if you're starting a business, you need to get clients. You need to get people. So you have, so go out there and you have to unfortunately go market yourself. You have to go network yourself. You have to go call people you don't want to call because it probably has rejection hiding behind a lot of those doors. But do it anyway because I was guilty of, I was a CPA, of course, by training. So I had the cleanest books you've ever seen when I started my company because you know what? If I didn't have something going on, I'd go figure out, should that category be split into 3 categories? Because that would sure be a lot easier if I looked at that report and it was split out, and I could now, when I looked at it next month, I could see specifically
valuable.
That's not actually going to increase my revenue. What was going to increase my revenue was trying to figure out what's the thing that's going to help me grow this business. So Ron, I would encourage you to do that. But here's the motivation part of it. One of the reasons that I felt is in my DNA of being an entrepreneur is that growing up, one of my best childhood friends, this was probably around 7th grade, his dad was a welder, got laid off. He was making $7 an hour, got laid off. And I can just remember, because this is, I don't know if it's still like this with, I don't know if it's still like this with kids today, but back then you actually played with your friends, you went to their houses, their parents were just as much part of your friend group because you knew them from being at their house all the time. Is I can remember what a stress it was for this gentleman to be laid off. But you know what he said? I'm going to go start my own company. And he went and bought a pipe bender. He bought his welding set. And then I watched this gentleman build a business that turned into something. And I still remember, I get kind of emotional thinking about it, because I can think about the fact that whenever I asked him about his journey, because by the time I got to high school, guess what? He was hiring us to come work during the holidays. And I don't even know how my parents let me do this, because he started having these presses and all these other things that would stamp, at ungodly levels of power that you could lose a limb, with a blink of an eye. But we would come and we'd work at his shop during the holidays. And I just remember seeing, every time I asked him about his success, as he continued to have more and more to where it turned into wealth, is that you get that glossy-eyed because he remembered what a struggle it was in the beginning, but then the journey, because everybody, when you look at a successful person, you don't know what happened in those first 3 years that hurt, the rejection, the pain. We all gloss over that part. Because I'll even share, I know Bo and I, because I hired Bo. I went out on my own in 2002, but I hired Bo in 2008. But I was not even assured success. I had a viable business at that point, but it was still at the point,
still fledgling,
that it was not growing at this. Because we all look at success and we're like, man, it's so easy. Because it does get easy in the fact it's so unfair in the fact that once you have success, it just kind of piles on top. But you got to get through those first few years to start building, and then it's back to exponential growth versus linear growth. I think through those first 5 to 7 years that I was in business, it was all linear. I was good behavior stacking, but then you fast forward 20 years in the future. Now it's like, whoa. And that's the part, Ryan, I hope that you can use this as, like I said, use the steps I've laid out, but also use the motivation of somebody who's walked that road less traveled. And I think you can probably see it with me, because I get emotional. You get that glazed over look because you remember the struggle, and nobody's going to see that when they look at your success, but use that to get you through those first 3 years that are going to be tough. But Bo said it right. There's a lot of businesses that were started off of economic uncertainty. And that's what I love. This is what's so great about living in a market-based economy and system, is that we think, oh my goodness, all this unemployment, all these people getting laid off is going to be horrible for the world. It's actually going to be like a pruning that creates the next level of success and innovation and entrepreneurship. I get excited about that. That's what probably makes me a contrarian. But I hate the pain that people feel from these economic volatile periods. But I love the results when I see people who catch the bug of entrepreneurship and it actually works for them.
Ryan, because you asked about some tips, I'm going to go very, very quickly. I just want to give you 4 practical tips really quick to think through, and this is true for anyone starting a small business. Have a good idea for bookkeeping. Learn how to keep your stuff separate. You don't want your business stuff to mix with your personal stuff. So QuickBooks, other services like that are great to use. Don't forget to hold for taxes. A lot of small business owners don't recognize there's a big tax burden once you have some success, so make sure that you're holding back taxes. Number 3, plan for taxes. Depending on the state in which you live, the way that you structure yourself matters. Am I an S-Corp? Am I an LLC? Do I want to be a sole proprietor? What do I have to take sales tax? Do I have to have payroll tax? Know and understand the tax impacts of now being a small business owner. And then the last one, make sure that you have boundaries. When you work for yourself, when you are the boss, it's easy for personal life and work life to blend together. Don't forget that there should be some separation. Don't allow it to consume you where you lose track of the things in life that truly, truly matter to you. If you can do those 4 things as a small business owner, you can set yourself up for success.